Channel 2, English. Channel 2, English. Channel 2, English.
Good morning, bonjour, welcome to the EPP Group briefing of the session. We have with us not only the chairman Manfred, but also Dolors Montserrat, which is vice president of the group, and the leader of the Spanish delegation in the EPP. We'll start with the chairman. You have the floor.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for your interest. First of all, I want to start with Ukraine having the enlargement proposal from the Commission in mind. We will not give up in supporting Kiev and our Ukrainian friends in their fight for freedom. They are paying their highest price, and we should, with all what we can do, support them in their fight. It's clear that the road towards becoming member of the European Union is a merit-based approach, so it will take time. But the most important message is it's worth to fight. You are Europeans and you can join. The second thing I want to mention is the development in Israel and the Gaza Strip. Well, first of all, we have to consider and have to see that the war in Israel is also a very European development, because many of the Israeli and Palestinian people having also European nationalities. So it's also a huge challenge for us as Europeans. We are also very worried as EPP about the developments on the streets in Europe. We see more and more anti-Semitism everywhere in Europe, and there should be a zero tolerance policy and approach towards anti-Semitism in Europe. That's clear for us. We support also the humanitarian approach in the Gaza Strip, that we are supporting people who need help there. We are also supporting the additional financial means for supporting the people in the Gaza Strip, and we are asking the Israelis for a humanitarian pause in the fighting. We as EPP and the European Parliament as a whole voted in favour of this formulation of a humanitarian pause. But I want to clarify that we are rejecting as EPP the idea of an immediate ceasefire. Ceasefire is not possible because we fully underline again the right of Israel to defend itself. So no ceasefire, but ask the Israelis for a humanitarian pause, with the challenge in mind that yes, it's necessary to destroy Hamas, but it's also necessary not to create the next generation of Hamas fighters. So that is the challenge in front of us, where we are on the side of Israel. Then I want to highlight that we have a new government in Luxembourg. That is a great news for us. An EPP Prime Minister is in office now. I want to congratulate Luc Frieden for taking over this post. And after this, now in front of us is the nomination of Donald Tusk as Prime Minister of Poland. So EPP is on a winning street and a winning path. And we are, as EPP, very proud about this. Currently, we have then 12 members on the Council having an EPP membership pass in their pocket. And that's a great development for us as a political family. And the most important issue of this week is obviously Spain, the rule of law debate. We were asking for a debate this week. It will take place tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the plenary. And we are worried about rule of law in Spain. We saw the reactions of the civil society. We saw the reaction of independent structures in the Spanish society, in the civil society. Because of this, we were not immediately asking already in the mini-plenary 2 weeks ago for a debate. There were already discussions going on about the coalition text, but we were waiting for the statement of the independent structures there. And that's why this week it's the right moment to discuss it. I want to underline that with this procedure is an argument that we don't play party politics. We do it fact-based. We try to do it as much as we can on the facts. And I have to say that when I read now out what the highest legal body of the Spanish state said, and I quote, "The General Council of the Judiciary expresses its intense concern and desolation for the degradation, if not abolition, of rule of law in Spain." That is what the authorities in Spain have written. And let me be very clear. I am shocked that socialists, Greens and the left in this European Parliament were even not ready to allow a debate this week about millions of people in the streets of Spain demonstrating for rule of law. Last week when we discussed the subject, socialists, communists and Greens refused to have even a debate on this during the plenary. I have to say they lost all credibility as being guardian of the rule of law in Europe. The left lost all credibility in this, and that will also be expressed tomorrow in the debate. So where is Katharina Barley? Where is Daniel Freund? Where are all these people who tell us every day about rule of law? They use it from a party political point of view. That's obvious. That's obvious. What I'm asking is to get a clear reaction from the European Commission. I'm very grateful for the letter of Didier Reynders to ask the necessary questions to make the investigation. We will have tomorrow then the debate where the Commission will also be present, and we are looking forward for their statement there, having in mind that a lot of people in the streets in Madrid on last Sunday had next to the Spanish flag a European flag in their hand. They are waiting for us, they are waiting for giving a good direction for Europe to defend rule of law. That's our direction as EPP Group. We will put this on the agenda, and we want to have a serious debate on this. And I'm happy to be accompanied today by Dolors to give us the latest facts on what is happening in Spain.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to speak in Spanish. I'm going to have time to everybody to put your earphones. Thank you very much. El debate que...
We have organised this debate in plenary tomorrow. The debate is not calling into question the legitimacy of Pedro Sanchez's government, which has received the support of the Spanish Parliament. The debate tomorrow is to raise the alarm. We want the European Commission to closely monitor what the government is doing and will do, and ensure that the Commission is ready to act. This government is the basis of a political agreement between the Socialists and the Catalan separatists in exchange for 7 votes. And there are three things which we think are an attack against the rule of law, the equality of all Spaniards, and the judiciary. So firstly, there is the proposal for an amnesty law, which would wipe out a decade of legal proceedings and sentences that affects around 1,000 people that took place in the organisation and implementation of the illegal independence referendum of 2017. So this amnesty wipes out a whole series of crimes related to this illegal referendum, whether it be corruption, whether it's embezzlement of public funds or terrorism. The scope of this draft law is still unknown. It starts its journey through the Spanish Parliament today. So this is the first test of what Sanchez is doing by putting this law before Parliament. And second, even more seriously, there is this new concept which is introduced, which gives them primacy over judicial decisions. So when you have a parliamentary majority, the idea is they could interfere, they could control the work of judges. Now, this is something we have seen previously in the EU, whether it was in Hungary or in Poland. So that is a second issue, and we saw this with the nomination of the Justice Minister, who's also the Presidency Minister, and responsible for relations with the Spanish Parliament as well. So that is Minister Bolaños. He drafted and signed the political agreement between Sanchez and the separatists. So by nominating this Justice Minister, Presidency Minister and Minister for Relations with the Parliament, what we are seeing is a blurring of the separation of powers. We're confusing the legislative, the executive and the judicial power, and everything comes back to the same person. And thirdly, we have the agreement between the Socialists and the Catalan separatists, which states that government decisions will be evaluated by a committee where they will be international mediators, and these meetings all take place in Geneva. This is something we have never seen before when we look at the 27 member states, that there's this control from Geneva. So first of all, there is the political agreement that was signed in a hotel in Brussels. Then we have these mediators checking this in Geneva, and today is the first meeting that will take place in Geneva. So this is some of the issues that we are dealing with. And I think this is sufficient for the European Commission to act to defend the rule of law in Spain.
We'll now take questions, if there are any. Laura.
Hola, buenos días. Voy a aprovechar para hacer la pregunta.
Thank you very much. I'll avail myself of the possibility of putting my question in Spanish. Two questions. On the one hand, are you going to be meeting commissioners this week? That was your plan, of course. This was, of course, in the run-up to the government travelling to Brussels next week. And you also mentioned that there were Union flags flying during mass demonstrations on Sunday. So you've got those flags flying outside socialist headquarters, but they've come down now. So I am wondering whether those demonstrations might take an anti-European turn, whether there perhaps might be some radicalization.
Can I clarify the first point about which meetings do you mean?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
The first question, so about...
Yeah, the first was whether you were going to have any meetings with commissioners this week before the minister, the Bolaños, comes the following week to Brussels.
Yes. So in my daily agenda, I have a lot of meetings with commissioners, so from all political parties. So that's why the regular exchange of views on the substance, on the dossiers, on the issues on the table. With Didier Reynders, until now I have no direct contact, so it's up to him to decide about the issues. And again, we don't take any kind of party political influence. What we want to see is a serious treatment of the case. What we want to see is that the Commission is responding to the questions Spanish authorities raised. It's not about party politicians, it's about the authorities. I quoted the General Council of Judiciary in Spain. This must be answered. That is a substance, that is a question on the table. And on the second point about the growing tensions, well, if you allow me to say, I'm extremely surprised why is it possible for Sanchez to do a government together with separatists, with those who are not respecting the constitution of a country, obviously quite radical voices, quite radical people, to do a government with them, but refusing the offer of Alberto Núñez Feijóo to do for a limited period of time, for 2 years, a grand coalition, let me call it the German way, if you say so. Why wasn't this not possible to solve the problems of judiciary? You know, even already in today's rule of law report for the whole European Union, before the developments in Spain, the European Commission raised some questions towards the judiciary in Spain. And obviously, this can only be solved with all Democrats sitting together and finding a common understanding how to do so. Alberto Núñez Feijóo was offering this limited period of time to come together, solve the biggest problems of Spain in this challenge of uncertainty. But Sanchez refused this and was ready to work together with extremists. I'm shocked in a way to see this. Why cannot Democrats sit together and solve problems together? That is, in times of uncertainty, needed. And that was refused. I can only say, obviously, it's due to the egoism of Pedro Sanchez, that he wants to stay in power. That's his main aim, not the interest of the country, first of all.
Decir aquí, o sea, decir que el Partido Popular Español.
Well, the EPP did not call for any kind of a rally outside the Socialist headquarters. Of course, we were involved in all kinds of peaceful demonstrations across Spain over the last month, and we have seen that the European and Spanish flags have been flying, people coming out against this amnesty and in favour of the rule of law. Spanish citizens, of course, are clamouring for the European Union, its three institutions, to protect their rights, because these rights are under threat, because the leadership is now building a barrier between Spaniards, and that is what was promised during the investiture, and certainly that is not what we want to see in Europe. Of course, we were happy to see the fall of the Berlin Wall. We don't want any kind of a wall between the 27 members, and we do not want any kind of a wall between Spaniards within a state governed by the rule of law. And that is what Spaniards are calling for in these peaceful demonstrations, the length and breadth of the country. That is what you were referring to, I think.
Let's go to Italy.
Hello, Tommaso Gallavotti in Kronos, Italy. It's just a question for Mr. Weber. It's about the Stability and Growth Pact, because I know you are in the opposition in Germany, but the government, especially Mr. Lindner, is asking for a minimal threshold for the annual reduction of debt, and moreover an anchor or for the annual deficit. I wonder if you think that the line held by the German government is the right one in the negotiations, or if you would do anything different if you were in power. Thank you.
Well, we are in power because the EPP Group is the biggest group in the European Parliament, and you know that all this legislation only goes through with the support of our political family. So that's why our colleagues in the ECON committee working on this. First of all, there is a need of a revision, so we always supported the general idea from the Commission to put a revision on the table. The second thing is we need it urgently because next year we are running out of rules after the Corona pause. So that's why we need this. European Parliament is ready and wants to work with the Council members. Thirdly, we are the party of stability. We were always the party of stability. And having especially the court case now in Germany in mind, Karlsruhe decision that the German budget is lowered by 60 billion euro now. That was a quite heavy, strict decision to implement the German rules of a stable budget, the constitutional rules in Germany. Gives us also a proof that we have to be strict in the implementation of the rules. And the fourth point I want to underline is we need to adapt all the rules to better investment conditions, because that is for those who have a high deficit rate in European Union. We need rules who make them possible to invest into the future. That are the points we have in mind as EPP Group, and that means also for Italy, for a lot of countries, that the rules must be managed in a way, must be drafted in a way that, again, investment into the future of our countries in infrastructure is possible. That is what we need.
Anna Vandensky, Europe Diplomatic. I have a question on Gaza, on two-state solution, because it's very much on agenda, because there was issued a survey in Gaza by Arab agency, and they said that 85% of Gaza inhabitants have negative opinion of Egypt, 86% negative opinion of Jordan, and 66% of Gaza inhabitants still support Hamas. So within this dramatic situation, how you see this, how you envisage this two-state solution if Hamas still has so much support among Gaza inhabitants?
Well, you described the challenge with the figures very convincingly. I think people in Palestine region, in the Palestine areas, have the same aim like the Israeli people. They want to live in peace and freedom. That is what they want to do. And that's why if they can see a possibility of an outcome, a long-term solution, we stick to the two-state principle. If there is a chance, if they see light at the end of the tunnel, I think they will go away from terror. They will come back to a serious approach, because again, families in the Gaza Strip also want to live in peace. That's why I hope that if we are strict, if we are strong in this approach, if we are also clear with our Israeli friends that we need also this long-term solution, then it can also help us to convince the Palestinian people in this approach. So let's try it. There is no alternative as to do so.
But do you see that Mahmoud Abbas can lead it, because still there is a democratic deficit, because he came to power in 2005 for 4 years mandate, and he's still at power. So many young people there in Palestine, they are disappointed in this democratic deficit. So what do you think about the leadership who will lead Palestinians in this two-state solution or approach?
You know, our long-term dream and target is to have two states there, two democratic countries there, living in peace together. That is what we all want to achieve. And the process will be extremely difficult. We all learned about in history that we only can do so if we have, in a moment of time, in a moment of a historic situation, that we have brave leaders to lead their people into the right direction. So in this moment of time, the current situation is occupied by the fight against the Hamas terror structure, and that is the Israeli right to do so. And on the other hand, it's the question on the table how to help the Palestinian people as best as we can. That are the two challenges in front of us, and that is what it has priority, absolutely.
We have a Spanish question at the back of the room.
Thank you, Javier Villamor, for el debate. I will ask also in Spanish to be more precise. For both of you, please. Sobre el tema.
When it comes to the violation of the rule of law, it's not the first time that the Spanish left or the Socialist Party have had issues. There were 2 cases of inconstitutionality during COVID. So we are seeing the erosion of the rule of law has become something habitual and not something new. So what would you say to Spanish citizens who might be becoming more Eurosceptical, who have seen these consistent violations? And I say that because a lot of Spaniards are pro-European, but they want to see some EU reaction here. You talked about the importance of socialists speaking out in Europe. Do you actually expect the socialists as a group to say something? Because yourselves, Renew, the ECR, you have said that the Socialist Party, that's the front line. They're the ones who could actually put pressure on Sanchez, and then the Commission wouldn't have had to intervene. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Javier. I'll start with the end of your question. The European Socialists have the opportunity in the debate tomorrow to show that defending European values, such as the rule of law, is above their ideology and their own party interests and their Prime Minister. So we would hope that all European socialists, all European leaders, including the German Chancellor, who should defend the rule of law in Europe. When it comes to defending the rule of law, equality, all of those things, that is above everything else. It doesn't matter who is in government in whatever member state. The EPP have always defended the rule of law. So we call on the socialists to not have double standards. So the real question here is, where are the European socialists defending the rule of law in Spain? And tomorrow we will see. I would say to all Spanish Democrats, not just Spanish, but all over Europe, the Popular Party in Spain and the EPP, we are going to continue fighting to defend the rule of law, as we have done over the whole legislative period and in previous parliaments as well. We have three institutions here. We have the Commission, which is the guardian of treaties. And I hope they don't get lost in the fine print here and they listen to the Spanish citizens who came out peacefully on the streets, waving European flags, calling for the EU to act. The Commission cannot ignore the hopes of so many pro-European Spaniards who are there defending European values in Spain. And I hope the Commission will be on their side and work with them to defend the rule of law in Spain.
Rule of law is not a matter of big or small country, east or west, south or north. It's a principle in this union. And that's why what we want to see is a serious assessment and investigation by the European Commission based on the facts. Again, based on facts already delivered by independent authorities from Spain. That is what we want to see. That is what we are asking for. And from a party point of view, allow me to underline that socialists have a Spanish challenge, but to broaden a little bit the perspective, we also have a Portuguese perspective. Corruption, the head of cabinet of Costa had €78,000 cash in his office, and the investigation is going on. For Costa, it was obviously enough to immediately resign, so the signal is also clear. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we also have Slovakia, where Fico is now governing, together with right extremists and together with Pellegrino, still member of the Socialist Party in the European framework. So Fico is now excluded, but Pellegrino has no MEPs here, so he cannot be, in a way, formally excluded from the party. That is what we see on the socialist side. And let me also mention the crisis we had here in this institution. Again, we were very fair because finally nobody knows if there are people involved. But until now, the Kiley case, 1 year ago, when we started with the investigation against MEPs here in this House, the Kiley case is only a socialist case. We have only socialists being involved in corruption in the European Parliament after all the investigation. So I think the socialists have a lot to clarify. The socialists have a lot to discuss, have a lot to clarify. And if you allow me to say as party president and group president, that our party is the party of Donald Tusk in Poland, beating Kaczynski, winning Europe in Poland. It's Klaus Johannes in Romania. It's Andrej Plenković. Yeah? That is EPP all about. So I'm proud about our movement, our party, a center-right party of Europe, pro-Ukraine, Israel, and pro-rule of law. That is our DNA. That is what we stand for. And that's why, having this broader perspective in mind, we are ready to go to the election campaign and tell people the true story, the real story about what we are and what we are asking for and what we want to do in the next 5 years.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but if you have further questions, it might be in the corridor. Thank you.